World War II by Chase Crumweedy. During the Roaring Twenties, many people were investing in the stock market due to America's rapid expanding economy. October 24th, 1929, also known as Black Thursday, the stock market crashed. Billions of dollars were lost, and the economy in America made a turn for the worst. January 30th, 1933. Hitler becomes the Chancellor of Germany and sets out to regain land that once belonged to Germany, such as Austria. March 4th, 1933. President Franklin D. Roosevelt became the 32nd president. He addresses the American people stating, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," regarding the Great Depression. September 1st, 1939. Hitler invades Poland from the west to expand his territory. September 3rd, 1939. France and Britain declare war on Germany in response to the invasion of Poland. September 17th, 1939. Soviet troops invade Poland from the east in hopes to gain some of the Polish land for themselves. America during the early stages of World War II remained isolated due to the fact a majority of the population did not want to go to war again and wanted to stay neutral since World War I. At the same time, a debate was going on between isolationists and interventionists, which nearly led to a revolution among the American people. With Japan refusing to withdraw, the United States stopped exporting the oil to Japan. The oil embargo confirmed Japan's decision to eliminate the United States Pacific Fleet and to conquer Southeast Asia, thereby becoming self-sufficient in crude oil and other vital resources. To try to gain access to Japan in order for invasion, the United States took over many small Pacific islands to get closer to their enemy. The location of these islands was a deciding factor in the outcome of the conflict between the United States and Japan. Russia's geography played a large role in its impenetrability. Its harsh climate and massive size, which prevented German invasion, stopped World War II from continuing for a much longer period of time. Then came the attack on Pearl Harbor. During the early stages of World War II, German physicists discovered that the Nazis were making a uranium bomb capable of causing mass destruction. Soon, Albert Einstein informed President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was urged to form a development team to build this massive weapon called the atomic bomb, codenamed the Manhattan Project. Years later, the project was completed and tested successfully. On August 6, 1945, Americans dropped a little boy on the city of Hiroshima, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians, but the Japanese refused to surrender. 3 days later, on August 9, 1945, another bomb called Fat Man was dropped on Nagasaki, bringing the death toll to over 225,000. In World War II, there was new technology such as aerial warfare, like the V-1, also known as the Buzz Bomber. Atomic bombs were also created at the time, such as the Little Boy. And radars were giving knowledge about the enemy's whereabouts. While soldiers were fighting on the front lines, American citizens were contributing to the war effort by doing such things such as rationing consumer goods, recycling materials, purchasing war bonds, and working in war industries that contributed for those who were fighting on the home front. Railroads relied heavily on diesel fuel in order to transport tons of materials, goods, and troops to fight the Axis powers after the bombings of Pearl Harbor. Without these railroads, the Allies would not be able to win this war. During the war, at least 2 million women worked in factories. The GDP in 1945 was $233 million. With that amount of money, factories were able to produce at least 88,000 tanks, 600,000 jeeps, 40 million bullets, 7,000 warships, and 300,000 aircraft. With that amount of firepower, it's enough to win a war within a week. It wasn't long after America entered World War II that Japanese Americans were being put into internment camps along the West Coast in fear of any Japanese American code talking. After the war, an influx of immigrants from Northern and Western Europe, especially Jews, came to the United States, with a majority of them being female. These Estonian refugees who sailed to Florida to escape Russian domination were granted immigration visas by the President Truman on November 2nd, 1946. During World War II, two alliances were formed known as the Allies and the Axis powers. On the Allied side included the United States, Britain, China, and the Soviet Union. On the other hand, the Axis powers included Germany, Italy, and Japan. On August 15, 1945, Japan surrenders and formally signed the surrender on September 2nd,
World War II in the Pacific.
The Civil Rights Movement began to spark as African Americans took to the battlefield in hopes of being treated equal in the military. These soldiers paved the way for interrogation of the U.S. military. Women's contribution, behind and occasionally even on the front lines, made it impossible to keep them in the status of secondary citizens. After the war, new machines were being invented, such as electric washers, televisions, dryers, and more. Transportation and communication became more cheap, and new installments were made, such as motels and gas stations. But look, no work. The effects of the war pulled America out of isolationism and became more involved during the Cold War. These include international affairs, but at the same time, people demanded a restriction in immigration. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as superpowers. The Soviet Union added its countries into Soviet socialist republics. Stalin had drawn an iron curtain across the eastern half of Europe, while America obtained naval bases in Europe and had a monopoly on nuclear weapons. America has recovered from the Great Depression, and President Franklin D. Roosevelt has mobilized the economy, spending billions of dollars on national defense, sending net manufacturing defenses to Britain and the Soviet Union. These include 17 million new civilian jobs were created, industrial productivity increased by 96%, corporate profits doubled after taxes, expansion of consumer goods, increased wages, and created new technology. World War II helped pull the United States out of the Great Depression, making the United States a rich, prosperous nation. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the world's two superpowers. The prospect of the communist expansion prompted a group of nations to form the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the Soviet Union formed the Warsaw Pact. Soon, both superpowers began using their spheres of influence on countries around the world, leading to the infamous Cold War. The end.